We can learn a lot about faith from the way that God designed our bodies. Just like our muscles, if you want faith that is strong, growing, and capable of carrying you through difficult challenges, you're going to need to stretch it. If all you can do right now is reach to your knees, that's okay. But if you ever want to stretch down all the way to your toes, you'll need to start a new habit. Like reaching a little further every day, that may not feel like much, but it will make a difference. When it comes to our faith, the same is true. God doesn't ask us to have superhuman flexibility from the beginning. God just asks us to keep stretching a little more each day and trust that transformation will happen. Last week, we said the first step in stretching our faith is making a commitment and sticking to it. Today, we'll look at a second way we can stretch our faith so God can help us grow. We talked about a guy named Paul last week. If you think it's amazing to see physical transformations take place, you'll love Paul's story. No, he wasn't a bodybuilder, at least I don't think so, but his before and after transformations was pretty amazing. Before Paul met Jesus, he was one of the biggest enemies of the early followers of Jesus. He attacked, imprisoned, and even killed them. After Paul met Jesus, he became one of the most influential leaders in the entire Jesus movement. If you remember from last week, Paul wrote a letter to the Christians in the city of Rome in a book that we now call Romans. In it, he wrote about how we find salvation through Jesus and how God's salvation impacts us not just for our eternities, but for our everyday lives too. In Romans 12, verses 1-2, it says, "Therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." Transformation, that's the goal. Paul said we shouldn't look or act like everyone else because God should be transforming us from the inside out. Only God can transform us, but there are some things we can do that make it easier for God's transformation to take place. When I first started following Jesus, I decided that I wanted to read through the whole New Testament, but I knew that I wasn't going to be able to read multiple chapters or even multiple books at a time. So I decided to start small. I would read just a few verses at a time, and eventually I made my way through the whole New Testament. And what I found was something that I had either read that night or that morning, there would be something that reminded me of that verse. And then I realized that through this new habit, God was actually teaching me something through his word. When I started this new habit, it was hard to train my mind and my body to adopt a new behavior. But over time, things changed. My new habit not only got easier, but God began transforming me in brand new ways. I learned that while only God could transform me, I still have a role to play in my own transformation. If I want my faith to grow, I might need to kickstart that transformation by starting a new habit or discipline. Paul wanted his fellow Jesus followers to be transformed by God, but what does that look like? It says in Romans 12, verses 9-15, "Love must be sincere. Hate what is evil, cling to what is good. Be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves. Never be lacking zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor, serving the Lord. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Share with the Lord's people who are in need. Practice hospitality. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Mourn with those who mourn." Paul gives us a lot to think about, but let me just highlight a few things. A person who has been transformed by God does these three things. The first is serve. You figure out how God has gifted you, and then you use your gifts to take care of other people. The second is love. You put other people before yourself, even the ones that are hard to love, and make sure they know they matter to God and to you. And the third is share. You celebrate with people on the good days and cry with them when life gets tough. But hang on, I told you just a moment ago that when we let God transform us, then we become people who serve, love, and share. That's true. Only God has the power to transform us, but another thing is true. Just like reading the Bible, praying or going to church, these are all habits that kickstart our own transformation. Choosing to serve, love, and share with others are also habits that can kickstart our own transformation. Paul didn't tell us to wait until we feel like loving, serving, and sharing. He just told us to do it. Maybe it's because Paul knew that turning our faith into action would stretch our faith in new ways. You can stretch your faith by starting a new habit that helps you connect with God. But you can stretch your faith even more by adding new habits that can help you love others more. You might be surprised at how many people you can love and how far loving people stretches your faith. If you want to stretch your faith, you can. When we start new habits, we grow. You can stretch your faith by starting something new. Every week of this series, I'm going to ask you to make one of 5 stretch commitments. This week, let me know which stretch commitment you are going to commit to doing. The first one is show up. To start, maybe you'll commit by following along with our series online and maybe even discussing with your friends or your family members who've watched this series with you. The second is to follow Jesus. If you've never made a commitment to follow Jesus before, today might be a great day to start. And the third one is loving God. Maybe you already love God and you're pretty committed to following Jesus, but you want to grow in your relationship with God. Maybe you want to spend more time reading your Bible, or you're tired of struggling with the same mistakes over and over again. If that's you, maybe today is the day you start something new by starting a new habit that helps you connect more deeply and regularly with God. Our fourth stretch commitment is love others. Maybe your relationship with God doesn't feel like a problem, but you could really learn how to love other people better. Maybe you have a pretty close relationship with God and you need to add to your faith by starting a habit that helps you love others better. And our fifth stretch commitment is to ask questions. If you're not ready to make any of these commitments right now, that's okay. If you have questions or doubts, or if you want to know more about why so many people have decided to follow Jesus, this is a safe place for you to ask those questions. You may not find every answer you're looking for, but this is a great place to start discovering something new. Only God can transform you, but you can kickstart that transformation by starting a new habit. Whether your new habit is about loving God or loving others, or both, I hope you know that the smallest habits can have the biggest impact over time. If you want your faith to grow and be strengthened, remember it doesn't happen overnight. It has to start somewhere, and it can start today with a simple stretch. You can stretch your faith by starting something new.